chatting at the beginning until I start to actually do stuff, but that's when we have more of our announcements and things. So make sure, please, that you watch that cellular respiration video. If I had asked, what's like the key takeaway? What's the most important thing to know about that? Two kinds. I like it. Tell me more.
The aerobic respiration makes 32 or 28.
About 32, I like it. ATP, right? And then what's the other one?
The anaerobic makes.
Anaerobic. Makes about how many? Two. That's like the key stuff here. So aerobic, and I don't know if I said this in my video, I was a kid in the 80s. I picture people with like leg warmers and leotards, because the aerobics was like the cool exercise at that time. And so they were breathing a lot. That's how I remember this. They're breathing a lot. What does aerobic mean? You have air, oxygen specifically. So aerobic, that's when we have oxygen. Anaerobic, and means like lacking or without. So this means no oxygen. All right, so cellular respiration, kind of this crazy thing because this is happening in the cells. What is the organelle that's responsible for doing cellular respiration? The mitochondria. The mitochondria. All right. Okay, so this is happening in the mitochondria, and it's using glucose, which is blood sugar. How this relates to our stuff. So my friends, we are starting on our last unit of stuff for biology, human body systems. And so we're going to start with the digestive system. Then we're going to move on, and we also are going to have the respiratory and the circulatory systems, and then whatever else we can get into. But how this relates and how this cellular respiration happens is because your cells need some of that, like that sugar, glucose, that blood sugar, to get this done. What's so great about making ATP? Like, why are we like, ooh, aerobic respiration makes 32 and anaerobic only makes 2. I guess that's all right. What's the big deal about ATP? It's energy. Yeah. It's like the energy the cell uses, your body uses to get stuff done. So this is like how stuff gets done. So we need to do that. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how your body gets those sugars it needs in order to do all of that stuff, to have the energy to do different things. So we're going to be starting in on digestive system. Really quick reminder, for some, usually I don't go to very many conferences, but for some unknown reason, this week I am a busy gal. So I missed my lab group yesterday. What's happening on Friday?
Lecture quiz.
No, well, you have a lecture quiz, but there is no in-person. I started in bold and now I went crazy. On Friday. I'm going to be gone. Okay? And I apologize. I'm just letting you know. So I will post a lecture for you. Sorry, I kind of went weird with my capital and then non-capital letters. Yeah, I felt like I was yelling at you. That's not cool. So no in-person lecture on Friday. So I'm still going to post a lecture, and then you have your hybrid one. I don't know. I've got to look at it to see. I will email you. What is the best way, my friends? And online people, it's going to be just like a blip in the matrix for you because you're going to have like a lecture there. But for my in-person people, how can I remind you not to come on Friday? I don't have a bat signal. I wish I did. When should I email you? When should I send you a Canvas message? Friday morning?
30.
Okay, I'm like a Thursday night girl. Okay, Thursday night, Friday morning, what are we thinking? Multiple times? As many as possible kinds of things? Okay. Yes. I didn't hear you.
Just sit down and spam all of our emails with like 10 messages.
She's asking for spam. You heard it here. The request for spam from Steph Spam. Okay, all right. It's been requested.
Ask us to sign up for a subscription as well.
Sign up for a subscription and remind you that your warranty is, no longer effective. Oh my gosh, you guys. And possibly a credit card while you're at it too. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. So I'm going to try to remind you, not get you to sign up for subscriptions or warranties or donating blood or your first child or whatever kind of a thing. But anyhow, just so you know, no in-person lecture on Friday. I will try to remind you about that. Okay. All right, my friends. I'm excited. The human body system stuff is really where people get into your groove. Yes?
Out of curiosity, what's the conference about?
Oh, so this conference is another sustainability conference. So I'm doing more, and then I'm going to be honest, then I'm staying for the weekend in Seattle with my friends. But I'm doing another, it's a sustainability and natural resources because I am the natural resources advisor here at NIC, and we're trying to build up our natural resources program. And so trying to get more information, about how we can help our students learn better for it and also get credits that are transferable. My key thing is it's cool to take classes on things that you're interested in, but a lot of us are transferring on to other institutions, and I want to make sure you get the credit from taking the classes when you go to a different institution. That's what's really important. So I'm trying to learn more about the framework on how to write those classes so that they transfer well to a broad range of classes, of institutions, if that makes any sense, but also learn about more sustainability stuff. Good question. Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. Digestion. Good stuff. Okay. So all of this stuff is going to be going in our human body systems, and I'm still trickling in the grades for the exam for my online students. I'm still, because I was gone, I'm getting them from the testing center, but I'm posting them, and for you who are here with me in person, I should have your exams to give you at the end of the class period too, okay? I haven't seen if I need to adjust it though, because I don't have everybody's exam yet. I will never take away points, I will only add points, okay? Just so you know. All right, so let's check this out. Yes, I want to make it a trusted document. Okay, digestion. Some of it, this makes me hungry just thinking about that sandwich right now. I did not have enough breakfast. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. The whole idea is that as we get into these body systems, all of these body systems are going to be working together. All of this relates. Your body is a system, which means basically a combination of lots and lots of different things. Really, really important. And basically, this is not meant to be a philosophical question, but it sometimes is, why do we eat? I have to remind myself about this sometimes, like when I have Girl Scout cookies around or whatever else. But why do we eat? To fuel our bodies. Okay. That's what the preschool teacher right here. You're like, I can hear that in your voice, like that. You've said this to your old friends too.
Oh, a lot.
Okay. So we fuel our bodies in multiple different ways. We're getting energy because we're getting some sugars. And by the way, people who are wiping out carbs from your diet, that's rough on your body, my friends. Your body, if you're not going to make carbs or give it carbs, it's going to make stuff to replace that a little bit. So we need it for energy to make ATP, but also you are what you eat. You are literally, and it's a strange thing to think about, how else, that's how you make your body, is by the materials of the food that you take in and kind of breaking those down into their monomers. Oh, we talked about monomers at the very beginning. Okay, breaking those down into their monomers, that's how your body builds proteins, fats, all kinds of different stuff. Yes?
In psychology, we talk about bosoms, which are areas in the globe where there's a high concentration of people 100 or older. And what they notice about all of them is they all have a plant-based Not that they don't eat meat, but primarily they eat plant-based, and it helps them live longer.
Yeah, there's very interesting studies on people who can live a very, very long time, right? And like the foods and the diet and what you eat. And some of this, as we joked about in my video on cellular respiration, I've talked about anaerobic respiration, which is like when you make alcohol, and also lactic acid. And basically, if you drink alcohol, you're kind of poisoning yourself a little bit. Does that mean that I don't drink alcohol? No, I do drink a little bit of alcohol. Like I am not a lot, but anyhow, but just so you know, so realize we're going to learn about this and do with what you want for your information. But yeah, there are definitely some, I'm thinking of like in the Japanese culture, lots of different places, there are some really, really long-lived folks, and there are certain foods that they tend to eat more of. And people are studying this because we don't know all of the things about all of the things that we eat, basically. It's kind of an interesting thing. So the whole idea, we're going to talk about digesting, and the idea of digestion, my friends, is to break your food down into smaller pieces. Okay? And there are two main types. So when we're talking about the digestive system, that's going to be where we're breaking this stuff down, and then also where your body is taking it in. And there are two main types that I want you to pay attention to as we go through this. There's this idea of mechanical digestion. And mechanical digestion is when you break it down by physical means. Okay? Break it down by physical means. An example of that is chewing. So for this piece of paper here, I'm just breaking it down by physical means. I'm tearing it apart. Okay? Tearing it into smaller pieces. You could say that this is digesting. I'm just tearing it into smaller pieces. Quick question though. Are my little pieces, is this still paper? Yeah, it's just smaller parts of it. So this is, it's an interesting thing. It has the same, it's the same thing, just smaller. Like when I tear up my paper, it's still paper. When you chew, now when we chew, there's really more to it than just chewing, because it's pretty hard to chew without having saliva start to happen too, okay? But the actual chewing and the grinding and stuff with your teeth, that's just tearing it into smaller little bits. It's still that same original thing. But when we start to add saliva, enzymes, stomach acid, then we're changing it up. So then we have chemical digestion. And chemical digestion is when we break down the molecules using chemical reactions. These are now new molecules. They have changed. And again, I mentioned like the saliva. Your saliva is filled with a bunch of stuff, but one of those things is an enzyme, salivary amylase. And we'll talk about that here shortly. I'm going to get my pieces of paper out of the way before I rip them, throw them all over the floor. But okay. So chemical digestion and mechanical digestion. I would like you, as we talk about the digestive system, kids, to keep track of where these are happening, like in the body. So we're going to talk about the path and the route through for the digestive system. And I want you to kind of keep track as to what's happening in each spot. Sorry, I'm tinkering with things here. Okay. Also to keep in mind, as we talk about the body systems information, there are 5 stages of food processing. This is a weird thing to think about. And some of you, and by the way, this is kind of nice though, because a lot of us have had some health classes or things like that along the way. And so people generally are really successful with this human body system stuff because this is familiar. So we're going to talk about the descriptions for each of these things, basically what it means. So first thing, ingestion. What does that mean? Well, there's indigestion, okay, which is some of us have the Pepto-Bismol like jingle going through our heads right now. Indigestion, that's basically when things are not working well with your digesting. Usually people have like a burbly stomach or heartburn or something like that. But ingestion means to take in. Basically, this is when you eat. Indigestion is a different thing. That's but I like it. That's good. We might as well kind of just clarify all these things as we're going along. So when we're eating, if you are feeding in a normal standard way, if you're not taking like a feeding tube, let's say, or something like that, that's usually basically happening in our mouth, our oral cavity. And then where does the food go next after your mouth? Esophagus. That's like the tube that connects it then to the stomach. The stomach is basically where we have our transport. So we have transport in the esophagus and temporary storage. It kind of gets moved around. The food gets moved around. It's a funny thing. We have stomachs, my friends, so we don't actually need to eat all the time. I have to remind myself this too when Girl Scout cookies are around or whatever else, kind of a thing. Like, it makes it so you don't have to eat all of the time. Not all animals have good-sized stomachs, and so they are more consistently eating. It's an interesting, and also the type of food that they're eating too. So this is like it gets moved around. Digestion, this is when we're breaking things apart. And remember, we just said that this could be mechanical or chemical. And some places in the digestive system do both. Okay, some don't do any. You don't have any digesting happening in your esophagus. It's just moving things along. Okay? Absorption. Absorption, this is where we take in the nutrients. It's a weird thing to think about, but our digestive system, so your mouth, to your esophagus, to your stomach, to your small intestine, to your large intestine, to the rectum, all that stuff, that's a tube. It's like you have a hose in you with an end and an end, okay? And the stuff that you eat is not considered to be part of your body until it gets absorbed. Because otherwise, it's just along somewhere in that hose. Okay? It's a weird thing. That's called a lumen. Like, it's like an open space of this hose, and it's like in there. And I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up things like throwing up and whatever else kind of a thing too, right? So like if you throw up, that's like, food wasn't a part of you yet, actually, kind of a thing, because it hadn't been absorbed. So absorption is taking in the nutrients. And then elimination. We have to get rid of the waste. Because none of us are 100% efficient at getting all of the nutrition out of the food that we eat. Some things that we eat, it's actually really important that we can't even digest all of it. I'm picturing celery. Okay? Why eat celery?
High water content.
High water content. Somebody last semester said, it's a vessel for my dip. Like it's how I eat my dip or my hummus or whatever else kind of thing. It's just kind of like a fancy spoon that I can crunch on kind of a thing. But celery basically has a lot of water to it. It also has a lot of cellulose. Picture all the stringy stuff for celery. Like you can cut it sort of like crosswise, but if you try to cut it longwise, it's really tough and stringy. That's fiber, my friends. That helps to like push everything along your digestive system. Okay? So important stuff to do too. All right. Now, on a side note here, we are going to be focusing on heterotrophs, things that eat other stuff. Okay? And there is a little bit to talk about in terms of if you're talking about microscopic things. There's this idea of intracellular digestion versus extracellular digestion. Intracellular digestion means that each and every cell is doing its own digesting. Okay? So we just need to separate this idea. So this would be like, here's a cell, here's a nice little piece of food. Cell's like, oh yeah, I want that. That looks good. So it extends out and then basically takes it in, right? That's intracellular digestion. This is happening if you were an amoeba, okay? This is what our like amoeba friends were doing. Or these are other like single-celled organisms. In the human body, we do have a few cells that do this. Anybody know of in the human body any of the cells that we have that do this digesting of stuff on their own? Yeah.
White blood cells?
White blood cells. White blood cells. And actually, some of you have studied human biology before, anatomy and physiology. You might know there's a whole bunch of actually different kinds of white blood cells. And there are some things that are like called basically like phagocytes. And I picture them like a little Pac-Man kind of a thing. And they're just like, or like Mrs. Pac-Man. And they're like cruising around chomping on stuff. It's an interesting thing. They're in your body, and that's part of our immune system, basically consuming some of these foreign things that aren't recognized. Our focus, though, my friends, is going to be on this extracellular digestion. Extracellular means that it's outside of the cell. So this is digestion that occurs in a digestive tract or some kind of a cavity outside of the individual cells. So basically, this is in something that has a digestive system. And this is being brought up because if you study single-celled unicellular organisms later on, if you do like some microbiology, you're going to have a lot more of this intracellular digestion versus the extracellular. What's so great about having a digestive system? It's a weird thing to think about. Instead of not every single one of our cells. Yeah? You can digest more stuff. It allows for the body, the organism, to be more specialized, like having these systems, because otherwise every single one of my cells would need to have access to the food, like right there, be close there and be able to break it down. So things that can do this and have a digestive system are usually bigger organisms, and they're more complicated, generally speaking. So this allows you to be larger and more complex. It seems like a weird thing to think about, but this is just have a little appreciation for the fact that you do have a digestive system, okay? Allows things to be more complex. Now, because I am a zoology person, I like to kind of have random side tracks to the zoology stuff. Where's my picture I want to show? All right. So I'm hearing this. I've puddled up this picture, and I want to know this tube like I have here. This is a different thing, but this tube thing right here, what'd you say? It's a sponge. This is a natural, real, living sponge, not your cello sponge that you would use to like clean at the house, kind of a thing. This is an animal. Sponges are part of the animal kingdom, but they do not have digestive systems. It's a weird thing to think about. They can get pretty big. Look at how big the diver is. And obviously that diver is like a little bit in the background, so that's like not really how big this sponge is, right? But they can be big size. Barrel sponges could be big enough for me to climb in. Okay? They're weird though, in terms of the animal kingdom. They don't have a digestive system. What makes a sponge a sponge? Like even if you think of at your house, even if it's not a real sponge, it absorbs everything. Why does it absorb stuff? Because it's porous. It has tons and tons of holes. This looks like there's lots going on. Really, this is a whole bunch of holes. And specialized cells that are lining those holes, and they're not very thick. And so what happens is basically like the one that's in contact with the food will absorb some of the nutrition, and then if it has extra, it'll share it with its neighbors. That's like a little deep in. They do not have a digestive system. A lot of things, like most stuff doesn't eat sponges. Some fish, sea turtles will eat sponges, but there's really not a lot of nutritional value to it because it's mostly holes. All right. What is a loofah? Not a sponge. A loofah is a plant, my friends, just so you know. Okay. All right, and then this is like there's some corals and other things too, but we're gonna have a little side quest here talking about body structure, kind of a thing. So checking this out, these are kind of funny. I just want you to appreciate some animal things, and again, this is me like advertising for my zoology class here. But on the top left there, that is like I would say an anemone. Okay. Has anybody ever played with a sea anemone, like at Tide Flats or whatever else? And I do that like at the, Seattle area, because those are the ones I grew up with. They're trying to sting you. when it feels tacky on your hand when you touch them, they have these little harpoon-like cells that are literally trying to sting you. These are cnidarians, but they're upright, and they have a mouth-anus combo. Okay, mouth-anus combo. Or over to the right, we have a jelly, like a moon jelly. There's all kinds of different jellyfish, like cubozoans, cube jellies. Some of them are gnarly, gnarly stings. This one is basically the same basic body, just flipped upside down. Mouth-anus combo. So cool, I guess. All right, because you're a little fancier than a sponge. There's a space for a digestive system. But what's maybe not so great about having a mouth-anus combo? I mean, we can think of lots of things, but all right, yeah, go for it.
You don't really have a stomach.
You don't really have a stomach, right? There's this couch spot, but also like, I picture like, ooh, I just ate something. Now I'm digesting it a little bit. Ooh, there's something else to eat. I open that up to eat something more, and some of my goodies come out, right? Some of your digestive things come out. So they're not super efficient, okay? Cool, but not super efficient. Down here is a really stylized version of a worm. Have a little appreciation for the earthworms in your life, okay? Or lots and lots of worms. But we won't talk about the gross ones. We'll just talk about earthworms, all right? Do zoology with me if you want to talk about gross. Okay, so worms. These are some of the most basic animals that have like a digestive system like we do. They have a tube, they have a hose, my friends. Our digestive system is like a hose. So the nice thing about having it be a hose is that it spends some time along. There's more contact on here. You could have stuff like in the middle, but it's not in contact with the body, so it's not being absorbed. Here, there's more like surface area to volume. It's passing along more of the body, and so there's more contact with that. Also, it's just more efficient. Like it's kind of, you start here and go this direction kind of a thing. So this is basically what ours is like. All right. So I have on our notes, and I know that this is a lot. I'm sorry. Um, these are, this is the route through the human digestive system. Now, this is not everything that impacts the digestive system because we have some things that are like off to the side. Those are called accessory organs. But this is like you could follow a piece of food all the way through for this. It's a continuous tube. So we're going to be kind of checking this out too. And other animals will have slightly different things. If you've ever did 4-H or studied like rabbits or goats or sheep, even chickens, all kinds of different things, or like cows, all sorts of different stuff. You're going to have all different lengths. for these digestive systems and some kind of fancier stuff that happens, depends on what the thing eats. But for the route through, we're going to go from the oral cavity to the pharynx. The pharynx is like a common passageway for the respiratory system and the digestive system. Then it makes its way down the esophagus, bless you, and to the stomach and the small intestine. We had the three parts to the small intestine: the large intestine or colon, the rectum, that's internal, and then the anus is like the opening to the outside. And I will tell you, for body systems, I ask questions about routes through. So this is something to know, the route through. I don't always start at the very, very start. I might say, okay, beginning at the esophagus or beginning at the stomach. What do you go to next? What do you go to next? Kind of a thing. So I like to give you a heads up for this. There are, in this picture off to the right, there are a bunch of other organs that the food doesn't go through. The liver. And you guys notice the liver is huge on your pigs. Like when you open that up, the liver is like one of those things that you see kind of really prominent, very, very important. And we'll talk about the role of the liver. But the liver is part of the digestive system, but the food doesn't go through it. So it's not on the route of the digestive system. Does that make sense? It's an accessory organ. The pancreas, too, superhero of the digestive system. So we're going to be talking about this. There are some accessory organs, like I said, that the food does not actually go through. Okay, so what we're going to do is basically talk about each thing, what happens at each of these different places along the route through, and then we'll have a little side quest to talk about our accessory organs as well. Okay, so in the oral cavity, which I don't know, and these are not the biggest pictures, but your tongues are huge, like just really weird. Not like long, but like lots of muscle to them. So in the oral cavity, we have saliva. Saliva is really, really important. And there are multiple ways, there are 4 ways that saliva helps in food processing. So salivary glands, how many of you guys have felt like that something going on for your salivary glands? Like either like when your mouth is watering, like you can tell, you know, like for me it's like if I went and buy like fresh baked bread or a cookie or something, like, oh my gosh, okay. Or, I'm gonna be honest, if you're gonna throw up, you also feel your salivary glands. Why? Because it's actually trying to neutralize the stomach acid that's about to come up. Sorry. Okay, it's one of those weird things. So it has a glycoprotein that lubricates food. It makes it less scratchy when it goes down your esophagus. I have to remind myself of this when I eat like tortilla chips. All right, chew your food, because then you're kind of like coating it in some saliva and then it's not stuck in the esophagus. Okay. We also have, and this is the part that I just mentioned, the saliva buffers, like it helps to neutralize acidic foods. So, and this helps to prevent tooth decay. So if you are eating something very acidic, it's basically adding that into your mouth to neutralize it a little bit, to make it less acidic. And a buffer is like a chemistry term. And if you've studied chemistry, it's kind of a weird thing. It like picks up a whole bunch of the hydrogen ions. I'm not worried if you know all of that. Basically, it just kind of neutralizes a bit. If you are somebody, and I am guilty of liking like a fizzy water, like a LaCroix or whatever, kind of a fizzy water. My husband calls those gross drinks. He's like, it looks like something that would be a good idea, and it's just tastes nasty. He does not like them. Okay, I see some people agree with that. My husband happens to be a dentist, so he cares about teeth. So he's like, that's horrible that for me to just sip that? Why is it, and it's true, why is it not good to be sipping one of those carbonated things? This could be anything, by the way. It could be an energy drink. It could be like a pop. It could be like the fizzy water. Yes, what are you gonna say?
The sugars.
So there's the sugars too, but let's.
Like, I know for your stomach, it like blows up your stomach because of the carbon.
Right, so there's carbon dioxide. It's an interesting thing. So there's two parts to that. What were you gonna say?
You're constantly undoing all the work that your mouth is doing to try and neutralize it.
Right. Your mouth is trying to neutralize the acid. Here's the thing, my friends, carbonation, and we'll get to the sugars here in a moment. I was even like doing fizzy water. Fizzy water, there's not sugar in fizzy water. Okay? So, but what it does have is bubbles. Cool, carbonation, right? Any of those bubbles. But here's the thing, if you wait a little bit and the bubbles, if it goes flatter, that literally is making acid, carbonic acid in your drink. So then you're just like, oh, and I'm not trying to ruin your beverages. I'm looking around the room, so there's some fizzy beverages here. But if you're drinking it and there's like, it's a carbonated thing, you're just washing your teeth with acid and some other stuff, and then washing your teeth with acid again. And your saliva is like, oh, I'm trying to neutralize this kind of a thing. So he jokes with me that I should just slam it if I'm going to drink a carbon, which is going to make me burp. Let's be honest, all right? Because if it's a big carbonated beverage and you're like, oh, that's not going to feel so good. But it's because you're helping your teeth out for that. And then there's the sugar stuff too. Because sugar, why is that? It's not actually necessarily your teeth. It's your bacteria that are around your teeth. They're like, yes, sugar. And then it's their waste that degrades your teeth. All right, no thanks. Okay, so saliva. We've got two things. It does have some antibacterial agents, although let's be honest, bites are some of the grossest wounds, that you can get, because for the antibacterial properties, we also have just tons and tons of bacteria in our mouths. You might have seen some of those when you made your own cheek cell slide. And the little speckling that was on there, that was some of your bacteria. Don't worry about it. We all have bacteria in our mouth. Okay? And then, super important though for our wild world of digestion is we have chemical digestion starts. Salivary amylase begins the digestion of starch. Salivary amylase. ACE, remember, is the ending of a name that's usually an enzyme. Most enzymes are proteins, so this is a protein. Now, salivary amylase begins the digestion of starch. What's an example of something that has starch in it? Potatoes. It's vegetables. It's an interesting thing. So our body starts to break down, digest vegetables like potatoes, because starch is like a really, really long molecule with a whole bunch of sugars attached to it. If you were to look at like the saliva of a cat, let's say, what do cats eat most? Protein. So their saliva has saliva that's designed to start breaking down protein. Okay, so it's an interesting kind of thing. And proteins are really long, big, complex. Think of our macromolecules, the big, complex macromolecules. So it takes some time to break things down. So for humans, we're breaking down starch. But for like a cat or something that's more of a carnivore variety, then, cats will eat like grass and things like that too. But it breaks down protein. So it depends on what the diet is. It's kind of an interesting thing. Also in the mouth, we have your teeth. And we're going to talk about something called mastication. Mastication. Masticate your food. Basically, that's just fancy word for chew. Chew it. Masticate your food. Now, if you didn't need reasons, if you are, if you were like, I don't know about chewing my food, I'm just gonna swallow it whole. It makes your food easier to swallow, my friends. It does, okay? And if you're like, well, I don't need it to be easier to swallow, then how about you increase the surface area of your food to improve enzyme activity? So like, let's say you had a big, huge chunk of something, and these little enzymes are trying to work on it. These are little enzymes trying to digest it, let's say, trying to get in there. But if you chew, if you have mastication, now you have a bunch of little pieces of your food. It's easier for the enzymes to do their job. Does that make sense? You're creating more surface area for those enzymes to work on. Lots of choking is not because people have had food go down the wrong pipe, down their windpipe. It's because they've had too big of a piece of food that they have swallowed, and it's stuck in their esophagus. My friend, I remember when we were at some little like preschool thing, she had a hot dog. This is why, like, for little kids, you like cut a hot dog, or grapes, cut a hot dog. Because if you think about it, your esophagus, which by the way, you will learn if you haven't been in lab yet, kind of weird for people who've had lab, where's the esophagus in the neck? Yeah, it's like behind your windpipe. It's a weird thing to think about. So when you swallow, you have that epiglottis that closes things up, and then the food goes into the esophagus. The esophagus is just a little tube. So if you have a grape or a hot dog that fills up that space, it's going to extend into the windpipe. Because the windpipe has C-shaped cartilage. It has cartilage like this, so it stays open-ish, but the esophagus extends into that. It runs flat along the back, but then when you swallow something big, it extends the space into your windpipe. So a hot dog, great, that's like perfect size to kind of get in the way right there. We'll get to the tongue here in just a moment. I know I have like a minute left, but I want to show you a weird video. Okay, it's me. You know I like these weird videos. So this is somebody swallowing, okay? And I want you to see how this works, and they'll do like liquids, and it goes for like a minute or two. Hold on. Well, it doesn't really matter if we have time, because we're here's them telling him, turn this way. So, chewing, having the tongue is going to like lift this up and push it. And this, like right along in here, this is his epiglottis that's closing over the opening to his windpipe.
Okay,
You have the food go into the esophagus.
Recording.
There's a liquid. So now you can see like the liquid kind of going along back. Yep, into the esophagus.
Okay, video off.
And then in a moment here, it's going to switch and it's going to be looking kind of right on. But all of that, that's like on the other side. That's just like.
Okay, video off.
Yeah.
Recording.
That's what we're going to treat on.
Now follow it down, please.
Especially more for men or people with a larger larynx.
And back up. Okay, video off.
Down to the stomach. And we'll just watch it.
Recording.
Like make it its way. The heart is back behind there.
And back up.
But this is along, and again, he has his windpipe in the front.
Up,
And
up,
the
up.
esophagus is behind.
Video off.
Recording.
Recording.
Watch it go along the top. All right, and I'm basically
Video
out of
off.
time. So, interesting, weird stuff. I will not see you on Friday, okay? I'm not gonna see you on Friday, so I will spam you, all right? Oh yeah, tests, what's that about? Come on, Stephanie. All right. I have tests for
For some
a
reason,
bunch of
the
the
grade
folks
on
who-
mine published during this class.
Oh, sorry.